everyone, and welcome to the 2014 Vegas Music Summit Artist Panel. Sorry, wrong notes. My name is Scott Austin. I am moderating our group of distinguished speakers today. Quick background on me, for those who care. I'm the GM of Artist Legacy Group, an estate and brand management firm. I am also a co-founder of Airtime PR, publicity firm that actually worked on the Vegas Music Summit this year. So we're going to be joined today by some artists, and we're going to be getting some really unique perspectives from each of them. I'm going to introduce them now, starting with Rick DeJesus. Rick is the singer and founder of the rock band Adelita's Way, signed to Virgin Records. The band has recorded 3 albums and has had 2 #1 singles at rock radio, 5 top 5 singles, and 8 charting singles. In addition, Rick's collaborated with a number of other bands, yielding 2 charting rock singles. Adelita's Way has toured with Guns N' Roses, Shinedown, 3 Days Grace, Creed, Breaking Benjamin, Hailstorm, Alter Bridge, Theory of a Dead Man, and recently completed a 52-date tour with The Pretty Reckless. Adelita's Way has sold over 250,000 albums and over 1 million singles in the US alone. They're currently on the road supporting their 3rd version release, which debuted at number 26 on the Billboard Top 100. Please welcome Rick. Christian Brady is here. Christian is a Las Vegas native who has been playing guitar for over 25 years and professionally for 18. He has played in a variety of live and studio gigs, and he is currently playing and touring with metal band Hell Yeah, a supergroup featuring members of Mudvayne, Pantera, and Nothing Face. Please welcome Christian. I'm going to let you guys guess who this next person is. Big B. Big B is a recording artist signed to Suburban Noise Records. He was a cast member of the hit A&E TV show Inked and is affectionately described as an eclectic 6'7", 330-pound rhyme spitter whose brand of outlaw hip-hop has made him a modern-day rebel along the lines of Johnny Cash. B has toured with Pennywise, Unwritten Law, and Cottonmouth Kings, and he's joining us here today. Please welcome Big B. Adrian Patrick was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, and graduated from UNLV with a degree in business marketing. Adrian started Otherwise with his brother in 2004, and the band went on to make history with their first single, Soldiers, in 2011, when it became the first song by an unsigned band to go #1 on Sirius XM radio, leading to a record deal with Century Media. Otherwise has released 2 full-length studio albums and an acoustic EP. They've released 4 singles, spawning 3 top 20 hits. They toured extensively throughout the United States and performed at every major rock festival in the country. The band is slated to play the Shiprocked Cruise in early 2015 and will be a featured act at festivals in England and Europe next summer. Please welcome Adrian. Last but not least, Corky Gainsford. Corky grew up on the outskirts of Seattle, Washington, witnessing the peak of the grunge movement, then moved to the San Francisco Bay Area to attend Stanford University. At Stanford, he studied music recording and became the director of the Stanford Concert Network, where he booked and promoted a number of concerts on campus with audiences ranging from 10 to 10,000 people. Pretty big difference there, by the way. Corky later went on to work as a marketing manager for eMusic.com and then moved to Vegas a year later after being hired as a drummer for the Blue Man Group, where he played alongside one of his all-time heroes, Tim Alexander of Primus. He joined the band in 2011 and produced and recorded the demo for Soldiers that got the band their deal. Please welcome Corky. So those of you that were here for the last panel, it's going to be kind of the same free-flow conversation. We're going to touch on some key topics and just get some honest feedback from our speakers, who I think represent where a lot of you ultimately would like to get in your career development. Starting with the first question here, how has the shift away from selling physical CDs and maybe even music in general, and an intro, into streaming, a streaming economy, changed your guys' approach to releasing new records?
You want to feel that one? I'll take it.
It makes you really, I don't mean to say this without bagging my team, but it makes you need people less. If somebody's just going to throw it online up on Spotify and everyone can hear it, it kind of levels the playing field out. You used to really need all kinds of distribution and the most expensive part was pressing the CD, and now streaming is kind of levels the playing field out a little bit, and I think you got to focus more on doing the important things to get your name out there, touring, syncs. Obviously radio is still factor in the game, but streaming levels the release playing field out, I think, a lot, even though I know all of us wish that we knew what Spotify was when we were signing our record deals, because they kind of just took that. But,
That's par for the course for record deals for the last 50 years, though, right?
Oh, yeah, man.
They take the rights to the current mediums and every possible future medium for the rest of the universe for the end of time.
So we don't get paid anything on Spotify.
Basically.
Yeah.
Pandora also pays. I mean, I think on our checks, our royalty checks, I can't even tell you how small the number is.
I can. 1 million spins get you $17.
Yeah, there you go. It's crazy.
That's the truth. Spotify, 1 million spins gets you around $500, but the record company is the rights holder to it, so that about 25 trickles down to the artist.
I mean, a lot of it, like you're saying, like how has it affected just the business in general? Obviously, the focus, money-wise, comes from touring, as people have been saying for a long time now. Streaming and record sales, I think the biggest thing we've learned is like the more material you have out there, the more people will know, the more people want to come to your shows. You know, like part of why we released an acoustic EP in between our two full-length records was to have, again, more material out there while people were waiting for the next record to show up. And that was all taken into account.
I think that there's still, like, your hardcore fans still want to buy physical copies of what you have. We did both. We put out a CD, we put out vinyl as well, and vinyl's making a big comeback. So people dig vinyl. We also included a card for a digital download in the vinyl, and we actually sell a lot of those out on the road. So when we're out at shows, we do signings. A lot of people end up buying those to get signed, things like that. So your hardcore fans will still buy something physical they can put their hands on, but obviously that has changed a lot with all the digital age.
Hardcore fans are what you need to survive, and you know, they still put the value on your music on the we have vinyl as well, and our record in CD form, and the diehard fans keep that floating. But I think for you guys, anybody that goes into the future, when you sign a deal, make sure they don't just try to make Spotify the elephant in the room that no one talks about. I think you have to discuss it. I think you have to discuss the royalty rate, the rate that you're getting on it. We never got an opportunity to discuss that. It was done. So I think going into your future deals, you know, streaming is the future. Your diehard fans will buy vinyl, and that should always be made, and you should maintain the rights to that. But when you do your deals in the future, you should understand that streaming is going to dominate the marketplace one day, and you should get something for it.
But it also levels the playing field. So if you're a small act or an independent act, you need it more than anything, because the money that you need to press up CDs and do that stuff, some people don't have it. So streaming's a good outlet to get known, but it's also like the noose that can hang you when you're trying to make it big. So.
You know, let's talk about, just with that in mind, this idea, this notion of being DIY. We talked a little bit on the last panel about the thresholds that exist, that inevitably, if you don't go to radio, it's very difficult to become a worldwide sensation, obviously. Does DIY really work? And if so, can you guys talk about maybe your experiences and the things you did in your discipline and your work ethic that made the difference?
Do you want to take this one? I don't want to take this one. I can take it, but my answer is going to be brutal.
I'm the same way, exactly the same way.
You can't do it yourself.
It won't.
It won't work.
To a certain extent, I would definitely agree with that. Like in our case, you know, we handed a self-made, self-produced demo to the program director at Sirius XM Octane, and in 2011, and that song Soldiers went, like Scott mentioned, it went #1, and from there that then led to us getting a record deal. But there definitely is a ceiling, I think, unless you're, you know, some of these crazy, like, out there metal bands have 1 million fans online. You never heard of them, you know, and how do you explain that? And they don't have a record deal. They're not on radio. I don't know. But if you're a radio,
but usually most of those labels want you to think that at this point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There's someone behind that doing it, and they don't want it to come out, because the minute it does that, then they decide that it's not cool anymore. So that's the problem.
Adrian also handed it to the one person who doesn't have this state. Like, Sirius XM Octane is the one thing that will give you an opportunity. It's the lone area, I think, that doesn't have this stigma on it, like, oh, there's no team behind it, I don't want to do it. If you don't have a team behind it, a booking agent will not want to book you, a manager will not want to manage you. No one will want to invest the time into you if there's not a group of people that believe in it. I think you need a team that knows what they're doing, whether it's your own team. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You could do it yourself if you have the right players involved and the right motivated team, but you can't do it with just you and your 4 band members. It will not work.
Yeah, radio, like once you get to terrestrial radio, that game is so twisted and convoluted, and so it's all about the team working it, who they know, and how much you're paying them. You know, and whereas with, like Rick said, you know, at satellite radio, it's very much grassroots and it's independent, but that again has a ceiling. You know that, right? You know, like Scott said, FM radio is still where you need to go if you're trying to become a mainstream act, a worldwide household name. And I mean, as far as getting a team together to do that,
Exactly. Getting in the radio too. I know he touched radio. The only format that will even give you an opportunity at radio to do it independently is rock. I mean, you can't go to top 40 or hot AC or alternative without an army behind you. And the thing about active rock is they want you to pay $40 to $60 to $100,000 to promote a single that everyone's just going to stream. It's most likely going to sell 15 to 25,000. On digital, and it just doesn't return the investment. You know what I mean? So radio is a twisted game because it is about, there's certain groups that have a stronghold on it, and if you're not in with those groups, you'll be left on the outside of things. No matter how many free shows you play, no matter how many acoustic performances you play for these people, these stations, they'll forget you in one day, but they'll never forget the guy juicing them with the money.
Yeah, it's how much you want to pay to service the song at this point. That's where it's pretty much is. The days of the little guy coming up and having a great demo and someone hearing it still happens, but it doesn't happen much. So it goes back to how much do you want to spend to be cool or be out in the front of the pile. And that's what happens with record labels. They have the budgets and they do that, but yeah, it's just how much you want to spend to service the song.
And the crappy thing about that is music was so great and exciting when I got into it first because the possibilities were endless. It could be, you could come from nothing and become something. You could.
Which can still happen.
It can still happen, but it's more predictable for rock bands. Adrian, when you put your record out, you knew that there was a grind following it, correct? Yeah. You didn't think, okay, we made this album. No matter if you had a hit or not, you knew that no one was going to just come out and give it a shot.
We didn't know how hard the grind was going to be.
Yeah.
We knew it would be there.
You know, like...
It still is, guys. Let's be honest with all of us. Still is grinding.
It's always a grind, but it's the days of the majestic unicorn are getting smaller and smaller. Even the labels can't push the button anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And especially for, like Rick said, rock bands. You know, it's very difficult right now at rock radio. It's a really strange genre. How many, by raise of hands, how many of you guys out here would consider yourselves rock artists? So, a good chunk of you, you know. For those of you who aren't in the rock genre right now, congratulations. But for rock and roll, it's tough, man. And I mean,
we're blacklisted from everything.
Yeah.
Media, TV shows. I mean, you can have the greatest record. If the only band that gets the green light is Foo Fighters. You know what I mean? Every other rock band, I've called Jimmy Kimmel. I've talked to their people. And they've laughed at us. You know, our last record had 2 #1 hits in a row. We were selling as many records as the hot AC bands that were on the show 5 times. And he was like, we're not doing guitars. We're not doing rock.
That's exactly.
It's not going to happen. You know, so it's tough to swallow that. It's tough to know that the only way your band is going to grow is from pounding the ground touring, being in a van or an RV. Van is I like the van better. But my advice to you guys is hold on to your merchandise. I mean, me and Adrian were kind of talking off the mics, and he's like, you know, I turned down a very big tour recently, and he's like, wouldn't you have made it up in merch? And he's right. That's where you're gonna do your damage. That's why you gotta have vinyl. That's why you gotta have CDs. That's why you gotta have bobbleheads of your bandmates. Anything you can, man. Turn into Kiss. Because your diehards will buy every single thing you sell yourself.
Yeah, and like you were saying too, like investing into yourself or in your own, like, we own our merch, but we also have to invest into it and create the designs and create the product for people to buy. So inevitably you're accumulating the debts to get the merch.
I refuse to give any of my merchandise away. Like
Yeah.
I've had opportunities. I've had guys come and be like, "Hey, we'll give you an advancement, whatever you need." Well, there's a reason they want to do that, because they want it in your pocket. So sometimes it gets hard. You know, you have to, like you said, designs and printing and all those things. But I just keep it. I actually hire someone that does that, and it's cheaper for me to have. Like, we're going back. You need someone. It's kind of that deal. But that's the way I survive, is merchandise and on the road. Because you know the guarantee, especially if you're not headlining, you got to take these small offers just to be on the tour. And some of these things where you make 5, 6, 10 times more as the headliner, you have to do it, take a cut just to go. So the merchandise for me has been how I survived all these years.
Merch is it, and now because the industry's so bad, even for the headliners, there's people are trying to get people to buy on. So now there's no money in the actual show itself, but people are expecting bands to pay to be on the tours. You know what I mean? Like if you're the first of 4 on a big tour, that first band, they're paying $500 a day to be on the tour. So they're starting at a negative 500 minus the $1,000 in gas it took to get there. You know what I mean? You guys know.
And then they're acting like rock stars, so they don't sell anything because they're out partying, and this is the greatest thing ever. And then they come home and they're all broke, and then they break up because they're mad because they're broke, and that's the end of it.
Hold on to your merch. Everyone will try to get it. Along the way, everyone will try to get your merch. Everyone. They tried to get me to sign a 360 deal right when I signed my first deal. And I knew, because someone told me, and I'm telling you guys, and we're telling you guys, never sign your merchandise away, ever.
Rick, just to kind of follow up on that thought, we talked about the team, getting the attention of potential team members to help you build your career. What can emerging artists do to attract that attention in your guys' estimation?
Write great songs, be great live, and make sure that, I'm going to say this, and you guys are all going to roll your eyes, but you need a great frontman. You need a star. There has to be stars in your band. If you want to get the attention of somebody, there has to be something in there they're willing to invest in. There has to be someone that is special. You have to have a great voice or be a great songwriter, and you have to take the time and energy on your product. You can't just go and record. People can, I guess, if you're great at it, but you need to spend a little money in this business to make a little money, even though the money's not grand. Your demo has to sound fantastic. When you turned your demo into Octane, it sounded like a record, right? They can play it.
Good, yeah, right?
Your demo has to sound like an album, in case someone wants to throw it on, in case someone wants to listen on their CD player like they discovered you for the first time. You need to take time on your product.
Even with us, with Hell Yeah, I just joined the band at the beginning of this year, and they've been around since 2007, and this is the first album, the new album that just came out, Blood for Blood, is the first album they've had radio presence since the first album that came out. You wouldn't know it was a #2 single, but this. So we're actually playing that game again as well. We're trying to get attention, trying to get this. They've made some changes in the band, and he's right. You got to have that person in the band that people gravitate towards, that people want to look at, people want to follow online. They want to see what they're doing. We're lucky we have a few people in the band like that. Chad, who used to sing with Mudvayne's, got an amazing presence, and we got, of course, Vinny playing drums. So we're lucky on that regard, but. He's right, you gotta have that, and then number one, like you said, the songs. It's all about songs, because nobody's gonna sign your band, nobody's gonna wanna know what you're doing unless you have something that's gonna make them money. Songs make them money. That's the bottom line.
It drives me nuts when I get tons of demos, because it's like in between. I do the hip hop stuff and everything, when kids will be super talented and then they just give me this most garbage demo, like the sound quality and everything, so it takes away from the talent of it. For me, it's just the worst. But I'm sure in rock that you guys get them too, where you're like, man, that dude was so cool, he can sing, and then the product's just garbage.
We've had everyone will say, like, in the industry, like, all we need is a vocal and an acoustic, and I can hear a hit from a mile away and all this kind of stuff.
No one can hear it.
No one can ever hear the hit. It's all bullshit. Like, even our own management had said that, and so we would submit songs. Like, hey, these are songs we're working on. This is where we're at. Some of them are in rougher stages than others. Some of them are more finished and well produced. Without fail, the ones that were the most produced are the ones that they're like, these are the hits right here.
I've given the same song twice. And they've been like, where was this song? And I'm like, I gave that shit to you already. And now I just produced it. And I re-recorded it at a real studio, you know what I mean? And when I turned in the first single off our third album, our label didn't even want to listen to it because it was a rough demo. They were like, we don't hear this. I went back and re-recorded it again and did it with a real producer in Colorado. And when I gave it to them the second time, they were like, "This is it. This is the first single." And I was like, "It's the same song."
Did you keep the same vocal too? From the
Same. Nothing changed about the song except the recording.
Well, that's what happens at the record labels. The higher you get paid, the more you think you know with music.
Yeah.
So they don't really know. They just, so if they're like, this is the one, and it's because of how it's produced. So if anything, what I give you is like, make sure you have quality goods, whatever kind of music you make, whatever it is. Because once you put that out, it's kind of like going to a party with a stain on your shirt. They're gonna be like, that's the dude with the stain on the shirt.
Yep.
But if you're in the suit, oh, you remember the guy wearing the suit. So.
Listen, these days labels want to spend the least amount of money and do the least amount of work they have to do because they're not making the money up on the CDs after they're being put out. It's really hard for them to recoup their money. So if they don't have to spend a bunch of money on you to go in and produce a record and do a record and develop this whole thing, if you hand them a product that's finished and pretty much ready to go, they're going to pay a lot more attention to you if the songs are there than they would if you're handing them rough demos. They don't want to hear them.
Now the positive side of, I know you're all like, damn. Here's the good thing is this: there are tons of people out there. There are guys. The good thing about the music business, when everything kind of came down, so did those guys. You know, so you can go get real producers. You can get people with real studios. They will work with you, but you have to spend some money. You can't expect to make it in this business and spend $0. You know what I mean? To make a great demo, you're going to need between $5,000 and $8,000. Am I correct? That's about the number. I know tons of people who will record 4 to 6 song demos for that number I know guys who've made Rise Against records and Disturbed records, and these guys will do that. And you just have to find them and you have to work and show them you're serious. That's how you can tell if someone's serious, man. If they're willing to put the time. I mean, my first demo I ever did, I sold the only thing I had, which was a car. I sold it. I didn't have nothing after that except a demo. I was like, damn, this sucks.
But yeah, like you're saying, like everybody is looking for work. Like, yeah, maybe there's a producer that would love to be making a record for $100,000, but if he's sitting at home making nothing, he's still sitting at home making nothing. Yeah. So an opportunity is an opportunity for anyone. If you just look them up and hit them up, you never know who might say yes.
Anybody that's here that's serious about making a demo, if you guys need any advice on it, come up to me after it's done. I'll tell you a couple people, and you can reach out to them, and they will make the time to do your demo.
Let me just say, as a former major label A&R guy, we're not all terrible. Some of us actually knew what we were
He's
talking
like, just
about.
all my coworkers, I'm the only one that wasn't.
Yeah, right.
You got it. It's the people you answer to. There's some of the people in there.
Hey, I said former. I don't answer to them anymore. All right, listen. Let's talk about social media. This is the hot button issue, the buzzword of the day. How important is social media in how you guys promote your records, and how do you find that you use it the most effectively? Is it the quantity of posts, the quality of posts? Is it giving content away? You want to speak to that?
That's a good question. We're trying to figure that out. The social media game, we were actually just discussing this with our label and our management, and going back to radio promotion, we were thinking along the lines of, well, instead of putting that much money behind a radio single, which doesn't always translate. I mean, we've had success in some towns in like Texas off the top of my head. You know, we have a top 10 song out there at the radio station.
There's like 4 singles.
And there's like 4 singles sold and like 5 people at the bar we're playing at, you know? Whereas now I think it might behoove us to use some of that promotion budget on paying for boosted posts on Facebook or Instagram, you know? We did one, for example, when our new album just came out in September, and the label actually paid to boost the post, and it got like 300,000 views, which was by far like the most we'd ever had. But you got to pay for that, you know what I mean? So as far as social media goes, there's some dudes out there, you know, a friend of ours is like, he'll post something on Instagram and he'll get like 1 million hits on it, but who knows? Is he paying for that? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, no, not a million people. You know Dan, Rick? You know Dan Bilzerian? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh man,
he has the money to pay for it, so maybe he is paying for that. You know, so I don't know. Does it make more sense to spend, you know, $100,000 on a single to push it at radio, or spend $50,000 and then use $50,000 to boost your posts on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff?
I think the important place to spend $50,000 is where the listeners are. I think Spotify ads, like your ad popping up to when people are listening to music. I think obviously music syncs when everyone watches TV. I know it's very hard to get on a show, but you can buy that sometimes. You know what I mean? I'm the same way. I'm tired of spending 40 grand on radio, and then the song sells 25,000 singles. It's like, that doesn't balance out. Yeah. So the way I am with social media is, I don't believe in putting yourself out there too much. I think you have to remain a little bit of yourself. You know, you don't want to be like, I'm pissing today, look at me. Here's Instagram me going to the bathroom, you know what I mean? I
like that, because it's powerful to me to know that so many people have to watch me poop when I put it up there. I'm just telling you, it's like a good thing for me.
I think social media, if you have quality content, if you're putting cool videos up on Facebook and, you know, cool live shots of yourself on Instagram that people look at you and go, man, that guy's badass. Or if your tweets are interesting. I mean, when you see someone tweeting that they're touring the whole world, or they're playing venues you dreamed of, you know what I mean? You know the cool tweets you see that you are actually interested in reading. I don't like putting, you know, the labels will want to have you, you know, tweeting pictures of your kids. You know what I mean? The labels like tweet all day, tweet all night, because that's their big rollout plan for your record release. You know, when we rolled our third album out of Virgin Records, we were like, Virgin Records, biggest thing in the world, like, what's going to be the main source of our first week sales? And they were like, make sure you keep Facebook posting.
Yeah.
Make sure you keep tweeting. And we were like, dude, we're not trying to annoy people into buying our record. Either they want to buy that shit or they don't. So I think if you're getting to new people who have never heard of you on Twitter, if people are sharing your tweets and sharing and retweeting you to others so everyone's seeing it, it can be great. I think if you're doing too much and overkilling on the social media, people think that you're desperate and you're devaluing your music.
I think also Adrian brought up paying to get your posts boosted on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, things like that. You have to be careful how they're going about doing that though too, because if they're just doing it with like a blanket group and putting it out there, they may not even be reaching a target audience. Numbers don't mean anything if it's getting to people that don't give a shit about your music or what you're doing. You know, they could be hitting business people that work all day and don't go see live music, and they're like, well, what's the point of that? So that's another thing that's because these are generators sometimes, and they boost numbers that way, and it doesn't translate those. So you have to be careful about where you spend your money on that, you know, in that area.
Nothing's better than grassroots, man. If you want people to hear your music, hand them stuff, hand them a CD. I know it's getting harder because of streaming. Then next time, hand them a card that has your streaming website on it. And you know what I mean? Nothing is better. I still walk up to people and give them guitar picks with our band name on it, and there's no one is ever going to beat the grassroots way, because I've given picks to people in Subway on tour, and when we've returned to that city 5 weeks later, I've seen that person at the show.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with social media though is, like you're saying, is every time you're posting, especially about your band, like, you are selling and marketing your product. So if you're a band that needs to be mysterious and have mystique to it, you post less often and post more mysterious things, right? If you're a band that's trying to be Joe grassroots of the people, then you post things relative to that. Like, know that you're always marketing your product and selling your product when you're posting those things. So you want to post appropriately as you're doing that, and think about those things.
Also think about what people might be interested in seeing that they're not going to know about your band or what goes on in this business. Like, you can take videos of backstage antics, things that you do that people may not know about when they're interested in that. You know, like, oh, you know, so you post that on your site, your fans are going to check it out and they're going to be interested in watching that, seeing crazy things behind the scenes, or anything you think your fans might be interested in. Like, we did obviously we have a lot of followers on Facebook, so it's a little different, but we did a thing on this past tour where at the sets we had our set lists, and we would all sign them, and whatever happens to them on stage, shit gets spilled on them, whatever. And then we would take a photo at the end of the show with the crowd behind us. We post it up, and then we would have everybody send in photos from the show. Like, hey, were you at the show? Send us your best photo, things like that. Best photo will get the set list of the night or something like that. You can do things, anything you can think of that will promote your band to get your name out there. People might be interested in is a good thing.
Also, this is a free way to kind of build your following up. Don't pester people, and but if you like this, check us out. You know, don't do that. Find the audience that's going to see the bands you're inspired by and that you believe you fit in with. Find out. You can kind of look it up on Twitter. You can say, you know, if you think your band sounds like a band and you want to tour with that band, you can just put the name in and find the fans who are going to the shows and just click the follow button. and they'll either listen to you or they won't. You know what I mean? Sometimes they will, and they'll be like, wow, how haven't I heard of you guys before? And that's a little way to gain just a little following. I wouldn't overdo it on Twitter and all that stuff, but if you see someone that's like, you know, oh, I just paid and saw Chevelle, and you believe you fit in that room with Chevelle, that's a customer, man. That's a ticket buyer, that's a CD buyer, that's a t-shirt buyer. Don't be afraid to just hit the follow or star, favor their tweet, you know what I mean? It brings a little attention to your page and your profile, and let them decide if they want to be involved with checking you out.
Let's talk about where the rubber meets the road, guys. When it comes to, you know, this dependence or you know, as a promotional vehicle using the online avenues, what about the real world work? Do you guys feel like maybe a lot of emerging artists want to skip that step and just get a bunch of fans online, a bunch of likes and a bunch of plays, but not have any real tangible audience?
It'll never translate. It'll never translate. If you're not playing shows, you won't grow. That's the truth. The road is, I'd say 60% of our success has come from the road, has come from touring, has come from blowing people away live. You know that. That's what you do.
And
you know
going
what I mean?
back and back, keep on going and keep on going, and you'll see it grow.
Yeah, our probably our most financially successful run was just recently when the album came out, and we did a headlining run. It was like a month long, and those were all markets that we'd probably been to like at least a half dozen times each. And I mean, we're talking like 25, 30 cities, you know, or towns.
And you still wish it grew more. Sometimes you go there and you're like, what the hell? There's only 250 people
only 200
here.
people here, yeah. You know?
But those 200 people are diehards, and they buy, you know, they get your guarantee up. They buy your T-shirts. I mean, we've opened for so many bands, and I was telling you earlier, we're done with it. We don't want to open for anyone ever. We're done with opening for people, unless it's like a great opportunity, because we make way more money headlining, and we get to call the shots. I'm tired of answering to people. And you still grow from it, because when you go and I mean, I've played places, and we've headlined in front of 350 people, and then just because that night was so good, we've gone back to the same place 2 years later, and there was 500 people, and nothing dramatic happened in between.
Yeah.
Except that one show we headlined. Headlining is how you will build your brand. Once you get to that point, you know, don't cheapen yourself. I feel my band has cheapened ourselves by opening for too many people. You know what I mean?
Because you had to take smaller guarantees.
Just everything. It's just you don't want to be the bridesmaid your whole life. You know what I mean? You want to be the bride. Yeah. And after you've been in it for a long time, you know, we're ready to walk down the aisle. We've been turning tours down and headlining, because that's how you build your brand. Once you're ready to headline rooms, you keep beating the pavement headlining rooms, because that's how you'll sustain a career.
Yeah, I mean, that's true for local or national stuff. I mean, we were headlining rooms in Vegas for a year before we even got signed, and it was that same thing. Like, we were building that brand of like, we got to be the biggest band in Vegas, over and over and over again. And if we had been just like, before I even joined the band, I know otherwise it opened for every other national act that had come through town, but it wasn't until they were headlining rooms that the attention was really brought upon the band in town.
But I mean, I guess there are steps. You do have to. At some point, you have to take an opportunity. If you get to open for a big band and you're getting in front of 2,000 people a night, whereas if you're headlining, you may only be playing in front of 20 people a night. That's where you got to figure out the trade-off.
I'm fast forwarding 8 years. You know what I mean? So we've already, now it's the same bands coming back trying to bring us out. We've already, you know what I mean? Now it's like, hey, you guys want to do a Papa Roach run? It's like, we've already done that 3 times.
Yeah, you definitely got to be an opener. One thing about being headlining that I hate is that everyone goes home afterwards. It's done. So you know what I mean? I like being like the second or third.
And like security's throwing you, like you get off stage and you're like, all right, cool, let's go meet the fans and let's sell some stuff. And then you're like bar's closed, time to get out of here. And you're like, wait, now's when the fun's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's the only.
Yeah, if you're young and single, don't headline yet. You come out, you're like, where are the girls? Well, they threw them out. You guys are done. You're like, what the hell?
See you later.
You definitely have to open.
This next question, I imagine, will be the favorite of the night, and probably the most honest answers out of you guys. Are labels really necessary anymore?
Major labels are not.
Yeah, but unfortunately, harking back to our first discussion, you need a team. You need, basically our label, we're not on a major label. We're on one of the largest indie labels in the game. And they're mostly a metal label. And I'm talking like heavy metal, like heavy shit that like I can't even listen to, right, for the most part, right? But we're one of their very few radio bands. And they basically function right now for us as a bank. You know, they do have some connections, they do have some network, but what we're getting out of them is like a recording budget.
Yeah, your manager is the key. The managers are the ones who create opportunities. The record companies.
I'll like kind of disagree on that point. That management is definitely the key, but in our case, I mean, right here at the Vegas Music Summit 5 years ago, I met a guy named Eric German, who's our attorney, our entertainment attorney. And he was the guy who basically got us our record deal. He was the first piece of the puzzle that we had. He was the first industry guy who was like, you know what, you guys are good, there's something to you. We've had, how many managers have you had, Rick, do you think over the years?
Three.
Three.
I fired two.
Yeah, so we just went through our first long-term break with a management company. And, but for us, our attorney was really the guy who made sure.
I think getting the deal, because my attorney got me my deal too. My attorney is Robert Reynolds. He's from Las Vegas. Him and Eric are both badasses in this business. Yeah. You know what I mean? Both very innovative guys. But I think as far as creating the opportunity for releasing your records, your managers are supposed to, some suck, some don't do it. They're supposed to do more than your record companies, because the record companies, they function as a bank. They function as the people who say, we're going to give you $100,000. Nowadays, we're going to give you $45,000 to make your record. We're going to give you, $20,000 to put towards radio. But they're not the beast they once were. They can't get you on tours. They can't. I mean, some can if there's. I've never experienced that. My record label's never got us on a tour. They've never really got us on TV. They've never got us at nothing, really. You know what I mean?
Tour support goes away.
Tour support trickles away, yeah. I mean, if you have a really strong rock department at your record label, they could be beneficial, but my record label doesn't even have that anymore.
And you're on a big
yeah, we're on we're on the biggest record label in the world, and I meet my friends who are not signed who are like, our music's released worldwide. Mine is not. Because they're also lazy. You know what I mean? And they don't want to do, if it doesn't make, their expectations are so high. My last record sold over 1 million singles and over 150,000 physical copies. And the meeting that I had with the president of my label was, well, the good news is we're not going to drop you. And I was like, dude, you guys didn't even do anything for us. And we made you millions. So their expectations are drastic. They want gold records. They want multi-platinum selling singles.
It's numbers, it's not even music.
It's not about music. My president on this record told me, have you listened to Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus? I said, dude, I told you before, I told him I was gonna piss on his desk.
I think like with Rick's experience with a major label, that's where we kind of lucked out in the fact that we were on an indie label and they believe in us and they really, they want us to succeed and they try to do as much as they can for us, but they don't have the major label pool. They don't have, the juice. Whereas I think at a major label, they want to do that for artists that, they don't want to do that for rock artists.
No, they want to do that for 5 seconds of summer and Bastille. And if you write a pop hit, if you're a pop band, anyone who's in a pop band out here, you need a major label. You'll never be able to do it on indie. You need a major. If you're a rock band, indie is where it's at. I wouldn't even waste your time. I mean, the major labels are frowning upon rock so bad right now that I just lost my entire record company. I'm the only band there. We're the only band there.
Tell them who they dropped.
They dropped the Sick Puppies, they dropped Alice in Chains, 30 Seconds to Mars, and we're it. And I'm like, yo. They fired my president. There's no one left. There's no one left. It's just me.
That's a lonely Christmas party.
It's a lonely Christmas party. But if you are
paid for.
Huh?
It's a lonely Christmas party that you'll pay for.
Exactly.
They'll get the bill for it. The label will never get reimbursed, but they'll have the bill.
My advice for anybody that is trying to get a major label record deal, because I don't want to deter all you guys, the secret is you have to always be you. When it comes to writing the songs, you can't go in there and let a songwriter dictate the pace. It always has to have you in it, because it'll never work if it doesn't. If you're not controlling the majority of your sound, you will fail. It has to come from, you can't just let other dudes write your music for you. With that being said, you also need to compromise with these people, because you will not get your record released if you don't give them the hits they're looking for and the things they're looking for. So it's a good fine line balance of remaining yourself and getting your record put out in a major label scenario.
So yeah, so to show you guys the difference, like what Rick said about that album, their last album did, you know, 1 million plus singles, 150,000 hard copies, and his president tells him at this major label, well, the good thing is we're not dropping you. Whereas at our smaller indie label, they broke even on our first release, and they were friggin' ecstatic about that. They were like, you know, I guess that's the difference in culture between majors and indies, I suppose, right?
Yeah, you can pay for their house and they still, it's like a battered wife, dude. It's like you make the best dinner ever for them, they're like, oh, well, it wasn't good enough. That's how they keep control of you, I guess.
I think, Rick, earlier tonight you mentioned, you brought up music licensing. I'd like to spend a couple minutes just talking about the idea of monetizing your music through licensing as opposed to sales.
Anybody that gets their music license dominates everyone else.
That's my
Bottom
gold
line.
mine. That's my gold mine. I can stay home for 6-7 months from just, you know, licensing and doing licensing has been the best thing ever for me. And it's mailbox money for the rest of your life.
Rest of your life.
Movies, whatever. Yeah, it's, for me, if you can get licensed, that's what you want to do. Forget it all. Just do that.
Which is going to also coincide with the next thing we're going to tell you up here. Your publishing. When you sign a deal, try to I know some places, they're going to take it, and they're going to make you take it, or you're not going to get a deal. But try to maintain as much as you can of it. You know, try to be like, well, why don't I just sign 25% away instead of 50? You know what I mean? Like, try to keep your publishing, because that's how I also live. Every cent that I was able to buy a house, I was able to do some cool things, and it was all through publishing. It was all through music licensing. It was all through royalties. It was all through, you know, people, you can get a misconception that artists are, you know, have all this money from touring and from all these things. It's the publishing side is very important for you guys. Don't sign it away unless someone comes with a ridiculous check. And also know that if you're in a rock band, you have to. I mean, how many licensing have you had?
That's what I was gonna ask you, Rick. The publishing and the licensing things that you got, was it your label or did your management get it for you?
It's all management and publishing company. I signed a publishing deal, and I had a big publishing company behind me, and they got my music placed.
I actually go through a sync company and give it away. And what I do too is I kept all my publishing, and I didn't give any away. I just write songs for tons of people. Give them out, give them out, give them out. I used to charge, and now I just give them out, and all of a sudden they pop. 90% of the chance they don't. But I literally go to a company that does that for me and sells them all the time. And it could be something as small. I was on a Malcolm X documentary the other day, so that tells you.
That's awesome.
I put it out there and put it out there, and it makes so much. Like you said, publishing, keep it. Licensing deals and publishing for me has been the biggest thing for me. As an artist, I've done mediocre. Radio, I did okay. But it's publishing and licensing and syncs, man, it's been golden for me. It's been the greatest thing ever.
I would, you know, me and Adrian been through this, you know, hard. I would recommend hiring a sync company, and I wish I could follow my own advice, but unfortunately, I'm on a major label, so my hands are always tied. I have a group of people to answer to who always tell me to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pardon my French, but they do. They will not listen. I would rather spend my money on getting a sync team or a company that will get you syncs than spending $40,000 on radio.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our label, the owners and the president, to do that. Is we've never had a sync, and that's the one thing that we're really lacking in is any kind of publishing. Our publishing deal sucks, and that's a great point.
But they're dinosaurs. They don't understand that. They're like, radio.
Yeah, radio.
No,
exactly.
man.
I mean,
Radio doesn't return. at rock.
You create fans too. If you get movie syncs or other TV shows or sports, whatever it is, they become fans. They hear the song, they don't know me. I had SportsCenter for a whole summer as the theme song, which ESPN doesn't try to pay syncs. I did a regular licensing deal at the front, but we watched the sales just spike and spike.
Oh yeah,
spike up.
we were the theme song for wrestling.
Yeah,
WWE wrestling.
yeah, exactly. And you start seeing it because your name's there. You're not making a ton of money, but then that translates into single sales and goes and goes.
Everybody watches TV. Everybody. You know, we had the theme song for WWE Superstars. We were in the video game Raw vs. SmackDown. We were the theme song for it. I see to this day, it was in 2009. I still see so many people that come to our shows that come up to me and say, I found out about you guys on the WWE.
For sure.
You know, and syncs dominate. Syncs and touring are how you can build a successful brand. I would put radio in the more rear of that line. I'm tired of spending money on radio. I know you are too.
It makes
man.
you feel good to hear your song on the radio, and your friends think you're cool, and you think you're
No
making
return.
it, but you don't get a check. It just doesn't come, and if it does, it's pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to actually open it up for some questions here after this last question. With all of the advances in technology, you can record at home, you can click a couple buttons and your music can be distributed worldwide, unless you're on Virgin Records. How does an emerging artist stand out, I guess, in this current landscape of the business? There's so much traffic. We think on our last panel the word was white noise. How do you stand out? Even though we have all these tools, everyone else does too.
Great music, great
It's always
songs.
the song. Yeah.
Great songs,
Always the
great
song.
sounding music, great content. Gotta have great content. I mean, that's YouTube. I mean, you shoot them. You shoot these big, expensive $15,000 videos, and they just go right on YouTube. You know what I mean? Those days are done. You know, you need to have just great content of yourself live, great content of yourself and your songs, and make sure everything sounds good. Don't have a clip of your song up that you recorded in your basement and it just sounds like fuzz mud, you know?
It's a weird thing. It's you guys all know just as much about social media and online promotion as probably we do, because yes, it does come down to the song, and you know, in a perfect world, that's how I would like to believe it works. But I mean, is there honestly anybody in this room that thinks Gangnam Style was a good song? Like honestly,
No, there's two extremes.
One guy who
It
thinks
depends how much you've been drinking.
There's-
but here's my point: is like 90% of people think that's a horrible song, but it's one of the most successful online sensations ever. You know, so I don't know where do you draw the line of like coming?
That's a
down to
1% phenomenon.
good song.
I think the good song gets you started. No one's just gonna hear your song randomly and be like, I'm gonna put $1 million into this, and it's not gonna blow up by itself. A good material will get people to pay attention to you. You'll have more people when you play vinyl in hard rock. You know what I mean? There, if your music sounds good, it's not gonna make or break your career overnight. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a 1%. Yeah, like there's YouTube sensations. You know, we've seen them. There's a couple. Most of those YouTube sensations have millions of dollars secretly behind them from a major label who knows they're about to milk a poor person for everything. I mean, that guy is done, and he didn't make any of that money. I'm telling you right now.
Well, here's an interesting example. Nickelback. Everybody loves to talk crap about Nickelback. Everybody hates Nickelback. Everybody, I see a post online, this, that, Nickelback blah, Nickelback this, terrible. But there sure are a lot of freaking people buying Nickelback albums, listening to Nickelback songs, because they've sold millions of records, made a ton of money all over the radio. And at the end of the day, you know why? Because they wrote songs that people want to listen to, and they're catchy, and that's the bottom line. So, you know, talk all the crap you want, but at the end of the day, it's about songs. It's about getting on, you know, getting presence. The good song will always be heard. That's just the way it works.
can go.